How did Syria end up being such a pathetic little shit? From having an economy that makes Greece look great in comparison to having over 50% of the entire nation entirely destroyed, and even a president with such a fragile ego that he kills everyone that slightly hurts his feelings. But how did Syria end up like this? How did the place where civilization first emerged over 10,000 years ago end up being the gold standard of how not to run an economy? Between 2011 and 2025, over 80% of the nation's economy just magically evaporated, millions lost their houses, and millions more had to leave the nation entirely. But worst of all, 500,000 people needlessly lost their lives, with tens of thousands of those people dying inside of this single prison, or as it's more commonly known, the human slaughterhouse. Prisoners inside it would often go years without seeing sunlight or hearing about what was happening in the outside world. But just like everything in life, Assad's brutal dictatorship also had to come to an end, and now there is a new government in place, and the first few months actually seem to be going great. Many sanctions have been lifted, the reconstruction of Syria has begun, and most importantly, there has been way less violence than expected. But unfortunately, there still exist a few tiny little problems. First of all, the new president might have been a naughty little boy in the past, because he might have been a high-ranking Al-Qaeda member. And secondly, the similarities between his first few months in power and Assad's first few months are quite scary. Both of them were viewed as intelligent, well-educated young men with new ideas that wanted to adopt a more Western style of government. And we can only hope this time is different and he actually means what he's saying. So in this video, let's answer 3 questions. How did Syria end up in such a catastrophically terrible situation? Why the nation has immense potential for growth, and most importantly, why the new government might be hiding something and might not be what it seems to be at a first glance. Throughout the millennia, dozens upon dozens of different empires, nations, and groups have invaded or controlled at least some parts of this beautiful nation. But for the purpose of this video, let's focus exclusively on post-World War II history. Britain and France just defeated the Austrian painter with the funny mustache, and now they are facing a massive problem. Their empires are collapsing, and they have no idea what to do with the Levant region. Both of them obviously still want to control the region and exploit as much money out of it as possible, but due to a population boom in the region and the fact both nations are more or less destroyed after the war, they have no choice but to let them go. But the issues of how to divide those nations still remained. So how do you think they choose to solve it? Did they perhaps draw the borders based upon where different ethnic groups happen to live in? Or maybe they just asked the locals how they personally wanted their nations to look like? Not really. Instead, what basically happened was that France and Britain started drawing random lines on a map while both of them were drunk and blindfolded, with no regard for geographic or ethnic boundaries. And obviously, such a well-calculated and intelligent plan had no way of ever backfiring. I mean, I'm sure this decision won't leave behind catastrophic and long-lasting negative effects on the region. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with this? Anyways, in 1946, Syria finally declared independence, and this guy became their first president. His name was... Actually, that doesn't really matter because someone already carried out a coup against him. So now this guy is Syria's newest president, for about 7 nanoseconds before another guy does a coup against him. After about 7,392 different coups and changes in government in 1970, this guy finally becomes Syria's president. This megamind-looking dude, right after taking over Syria, immediately turns into a stereotypical semi-communist dictator. He forced everyone to treat him like a living god. Pictures of his ugly face were littered all over the nation, and his political opponents suddenly developed this strange habit of jumping off bridges right after slightly disagreeing with him. Must be a coincidence or something. Quite honestly, in simple English, he was a massive jackass. And from an economic development perspective, he somehow was even worse. The average Syrian lived in extreme poverty and struggled to feed his family. Inflation was rampant. Unemployment was the only thing higher than his ego, and next to no foreign companies even thought about the idea of investing into Syria. This is the part where we get to meet one of the protagonists of the Syrian story, Assad himself. Assad was the second son of the Syrian president. He was born in 1965 in Damascus, and reportedly he had a relatively normal and happy childhood. Assad from a young age was very intelligent and academically gifted, but he also was extremely shy and soft-spoken, so his dad didn't even consider him as a possible candidate to replace him once he died, and instead he focused all of his energy on his older brother Basil. Basil was very extroverted, well-spoken and charismatic, quite literally the picture-perfect politician, and this wasn't an accident. Basil was supposed to be president, and his dad made sure he had every quality he needed to become a great leader for Syria. But unfortunately, everything changed on January 21st, 1994. As Basil was making his way to the Damascus airport, he found himself in a high-speed car accident, and he tragically lost his life. The family of Basil, the nation of Syria, and the wider world were shocked. In just a single second, the second most powerful man in Syria suddenly lost his life, and a massive power vacuum was left in the nation. At the same time, Bashar was in Britain following his passion of becoming an ophthalmologist, but the news of his brother's death changed his life forever. His father, worried about his family's future grip on power, immediately recalled him back to Syria so he could eventually replace him. And after 6 years of intense and gruesome training in the military, it was finally time. In June of the year 2000, the father was dead, and Assad was left alone to rule Syria, and everything went to shit almost immediately. Many Western observers falsely believed, due to his Western education, Bashar might be more open to the idea of creating a more Western style of government in Syria and helping the nation escape poverty, but unfortunately, they couldn't have been any more wrong. During the 14 years of war in Syria, life there was basically the physical manifestation of hell. As I already mentioned, millions fled the nation, 500,000 people lost their lives, the economy was less stable than Elon Musk's emotional state, and the average North Korean had more political rights than the Syrian people. But in the last few months, a light started appearing at the end of the tunnel. A group of fighters started a rapid offensive from the north of the country that ended with their overwhelming victory and the liberation of Syria. And the man behind this was none other than Ahmed al-Shara himself. Most likely, you are looking at your screen right now, asking who the fuck is Ahmed al-Shara? And in all honesty, you got a point. He is an extremely private person, and not much is known about him, but the most likely version of events goes like this. He was born in southeastern Syria in 1982. Just like Assad, he also had a mostly peaceful and happy childhood in Saudi Arabia, but after he learned all about the horrors taking place in Syria and the wider Middle East, he decided to do something about it. So he abandoned his education and joined some questionable groups to help the people of Syria. Eventually, through a series of unfortunate events, he happened to find himself as a high-ranking Al-Qaeda member, but he claims he never aligned with the extremist side of the group and just wanted the liberation of the Syrian people. Although, as I mentioned, nothing is confirmed 100%, so take everything I just said with a grain of salt. But in my humble and probably somewhat naively optimistic opinion, he seems to be saying the truth and genuinely cares about his people. Most of his recent decisions, like allowing foreign private companies to enter the Syrian economy and convincing Europe and America to lift their sanctions, seem to be very well calculated and great for the people of Syria. And even though the nation might be in a worse state than the streets of Paris after a football match, they still have massive potential. They possess a strong oil, textiles and agricultural sectors. They have a fast-growing population, and most importantly, the global community seems ready to help the people of Syria grow their economy. And even though many challenges still remain, like lack of democratic elections, a bloated public sector, a weak currency, and some internal struggles between the different ethnic groups inside this very diverse nation, I'm overall very optimistic about the nation's future, and I expect to see their economy grow at a rapid pace in the next few decades. And to prove that, we have to look no further than Saudi Arabia. The nation once used to be divided, broke, and in the constant threat of civil war, but through years of economic planning, strong international relations, and most importantly, a lot of luck, they became one of the most successful nations in the Middle East. If you want to learn more about them, just click here, or maybe just subscribe. Anyways, have a great rest of your day.